Wendell Barnhouse, Big12Sports.com here with Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby. And Bob, recently the announcement was made that the college football postseason is going to go into a 14 playoff situation. It was over 140 years of college football without a playoff. Are you kind of surprised that it only took 6 months for this decision to move into a playoff format to come about?
Well, it's considering the fact that I'm just getting started on my first commissionership, I'd have to say there are a lot of things that are surprising me these days. But having said that, it's what I found when I got to the meetings was a real sense of collegiality. There wasn't the pushing and shoving. There wasn't the dichotomy between the SEC and the Big Ten that had been portrayed. I found it to be a very cooperative environment, and in that kind of environment, you can get things done. And I think good thinkers got together and spent a lot of time on it. They gravitated around a set of principles, and based upon my 4 meetings, I really feel like we came out with an end situation that is going to be very good for college football. And did it take a lot of years to get to it? Yes, it absolutely did. There are a lot of details that are yet to be resolved, but I think the seeded 4-team tournament is exactly where we ought to be. It was accomplished within the bowl system, so it will keep the postseason strong in general. It will support the regular season and, in fact, even strengthen the September schedules, I think. And I am very excited about what we've put in place and what the prospects are for the future.
It was recently announced that the Big 12 and Southeastern Conference are going to go in together on what's called the Champions Bowl. How do you see that fitting into the new playoff format that's going to start in 2014?
Well, we expect to be hosting semifinals. It hasn't been determined in any sort of final way how many semifinals are going to be held in each bowl. If we had the opportunity to be the benevolent dictator, I think we would probably agree with the SEC that we should have 4 semifinal opportunities over that 12-year period. It could end up less, it could end up more, but I think 4 is where we would like to land if we could. The Champions Bowl is a huge part of the postseason going forward. I am really excited about the fact that we're going to recapture New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We anticipate that there'll be a game in the 1 o'clock time frame on New Year's Day, followed by the Rose Bowl, followed by the Champions Bowl, wherever it may reside. And I just think it's going to be a spectacular 2 days of college football that really is going to allow us to feature the game in ways we've never been able to feature it before.
When the Champions Bowl was announced, a lot of people thought it was kind of a game changer as far as how the future of college football's postseason and the bowl situation is going to be. Is that the way you see it?
I don't think there's any question about it. I think that's an apt characterization. I think it was a game changer. It changed the negotiating process. It changed how we structured the playoff. I think it enjoyed support from the Pac-12 and the Big Ten because they saw what it could do for January 1st. And I just think it has a multitude of positive aspects, and I think the Big 12 and the SEC will be at the very epicenter of college football every January 1st.
When the Champions Bowl was announced, it was announced as a 5-year agreement, but the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl have recently done agreements for 12 years that will match the new postseason format that's going to start in 2014. Do you anticipate the Champions Bowl doing a similar 12-year contract?
It will. We will have to have a grant of rights that will cover the entire 12 years on the Champions Bowl. We have had some discussions with the directors and with the presidents and chancellors on that matter, and as we go forward with our conference package as well as the television and the site selection for the Champions Bowl, we will eventually have to get to the point where we will have a grant of rights for that entire period.
Well, as you mentioned, there's still a lot of things to be decided with this new playoff format, but do you think as far as maybe the selection committee that's going to be put in place, you were on the NCAA basketball selection committee as chair, Do you think there'll be any similarities between those two committees?
I don't think there'll any question there'll be some similarities. I think it'll be a larger committee, mostly because we really believe that there should be some recusal. And in the case of the basketball committee, there is recusal whenever you're talking about one of the teams in the league or one of the institutions that you represent. You're always out in the hall, so to speak. And I would expect a similar situation. I think that we will likely have to put in place some metrics that will allow the committee to do their job. Will it end up being an RPI, just like what there is in basketball? I think that is unlikely, simply because there are fewer data points that you can use, but strength of schedule is certainly going to be taken into account. How the committee is going to be comprised is yet to be determined, but there's a wide array of beliefs as to how it should fit together. Should we be using retired coaches, retired athletic directors, uninvolved citizens from other walks of life, whether it should be current commissioners or athletic directors, should the coaches have input into it? There are a number of factors. I expect that as tools, we will continue to use some of the polls as well. I don't know that they're going to be any sort of absolute manner in which they're used, but it's an evolving process, and we're going to have to put that together over the coming months.
Well, what's up next as far as nailing down some more details in this playoff format?
The two biggest issues are composition of the selection committee and then putting together the tools that will help them to do their jobs, and the other is revenue sharing. And we have agreement around the principles that are going to dictate revenue sharing, but there are lots of other details yet to be determined. And then not the least of those details is we don't know how big the pie is. We haven't taken it to market yet. We expect that we're going to have 12 championship games, of course, that we'll take to market. We're going to have somewhere between 12 and 24 semifinal games to take to market, and then we could have as many as 36 host bowl games that we could take to market from a television standpoint. So until we realize how big the universe is there, it's going to be a little difficult to get to the very end of revenue sharing. But there isn't any question revenue sharing and the committee are the two biggest outstanding issues, but we have agreements in principle around both of them at this point.
Thanks a lot, Bob. For the Big 12 Digital Network, I'm Wendell Barnhouse.